In the last episode, we traveled to the highlands of Somerset, PA to camp on the densely forested ridge Laurel Hill at Forbes State Forest, motorized campsite number 2. In this episode, we're headed to a group of sandy barrier islands off the coast of North Carolina known as the Outer Banks. We've reserved a site at Cape Point Campground on Hatteras, the southernmost island accessible by car, for a whole week. There's a lot to see, so let's get going. We joined the crew at 12 p.m. on one of the many bridges of the Outer Banks. We left Ohio at 4 in the morning, and after 10 plus hours, we made it onto the Outer Banks, and we're heading south to Hatteras. It's good to be back here and smell the ocean air. The Outer Banks has been a family favorite since 1997, after rain and cold water made us abandon our original plans at Virginia Beach and migrate south. We ended up in Nag's Head and fell in love with the place. Certain traditions were formed, like picking the noses of the Wright brothers at the memorial and climbing the sand dunes of Jockey's Ridge before ending up at the kite store across the street for ice cream. Hatteras has watched us grow, and we've watched it, returning year after year with our family and friends. I've had some of the best times of my life on these shores.
Perfect.
Warm childhood memories float around with the salty breeze like little diorama bubbles. I've had some of the best times of my life here, but I've also had some of the worst times of my life. Our best friend and faithful canine companion, Kayla, passed away here. The awful and extremely vivid memory of that day floats around with the other memories and still retains an immense power when it pops, filling my eyes with tears and bringing me to my knees in a crushing pain, while all the scars open and bleed again as I'm forcefully transported back to that day. Every time we travel there, I picture my best friend welcoming us as she runs along the beach. I'll see her looking down at me in the wispy patterns of the clouds. I'll hear her doggy voice in the crashing waves, and every now and again she visits me in my dreams, sitting beside me once again on top of a hill overlooking a vast and beautiful landscape. No matter what you're going through, the shifting sands of these islands will soothe your wounds, at least for now, with a lullaby of crashing waves and singing seagulls under the warmth of the summer sun and the gentle, cool breeze of fresh ocean air. We're getting close now. We're going over the new Rodanthe Bridge, a 2.4 mile long jug handle bridge which opened in 2022. It was designed to face the extreme winds of storms, and its main function is to create a more reliable route to Hatteras by bypassing the old area of Merlot Beach, which frequently experiences overwash from storms, ending in road closures and stranded motorists. What a beautiful bridge, and the see-through wind-resistant barriers allow great views as you go over it. And then just past the bridge, another landmark stands out. There looks like a house down there in the dunes. It looks like something out of a movie or a dream. We gotta check this out. What we're looking at is the Oregon Inlet Life-Saving Station. This was essentially the Coast Guard before it was called the Coast Guard, and it handled the responsibilities of shipwreck rescue, storm and flood rescue, clearing navigation hazards, and carrying food and supplies to isolated communities. In 1988, the Coast Guard abandoned the site, and eventually the land was given to North Carolina aquariums to take over. Since then, the house has been fixed up and renovated, and no vandals have taken from the property everything, including plumbing and wiring. It's still in really good shape. A jetty was installed near the bridge to prevent erosion, which may have worked a little too well. The sand is no longer being eroded, but instead being piled up as high as 25 feet around the building. It really makes the landscape look surreal, doesn't it? Okay, let's get back in the car and continue. Next stop, Hatteras. The southernmost island of the Outer Banks. The 50-mile-long and 3.5-mile-wide at its widest, Hatteras Island. Part of the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, more than half of this island is comprised of undeveloped natural terrain. A whopping 63% of the island is federal park beaches, dunes, marshes, and woodlands that will never be developed. And only 12% is open to private ownership and development. We're arriving at the town of Buxton, where the campground is located. Buxton is a beautiful town that lies protected on the widest and highest part of the island, and it contains the rare maritime forest, Buxton Woods, and also the beautiful Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Far from the hustle and bustle of a larger town with big box stores, Buxton managed to keep its small town feel. Still, there's a good amount of smaller hotels, house rentals, and even campgrounds to choose from. There it is, the Cape Point Campground. We're headed all the way to the back to Row K. There's our site, K20. This site's concrete pad is already completely level. That means we could skip the leveling step for the A-liner and just start setting up. Let's speed this part up a little bit. We finished setting up camp, and as the sun is setting, so is our heads towards our pillows. Everyone's tuckered out from the travel and heading to bed early. I'm tired as well, but I just can't help it. I want to go see the beach. Let's go real quick. I slowly make my way through the dunes to the beach. It's a beautiful night in the lower 70s with a decent breeze. Okay, I'm on the beach now. Let's turn the lights on and see what we can find. Looks like the local ghost crabs have come out of their burrows to scavenge for food. These crabs aren't warm-blooded animals, but look how bright they are in the thermal camera. Somehow, they're warmer than the surroundings. The crabs aren't the only ones enjoying the beach tonight. My own species is out here sitting around the campfires and fishing. It is a beautiful night. I watched the crabs scavenge and chase each other for a half an hour. I can't fight sleep anymore, so I'm going to head back to camp. I'm really excited to see what this place looks like in the daytime. Good night, everybody. Good morning. We're looking forward to making the big trek to the beach today. But I've got some time right now, so I want to take you on a little tour of the area. Let's go. Welcome to campsite K20. What do you think of our setup? Back here in the last row of sites, the ground is a bit wet. There's no puddles, but if you step barefoot, you can feel the water and mud rush between your toes, like you're walking on a wet towel or something. It's so wet, actually, that they haven't been able to mow the grass, as you can tell by the tall flower stalks and vegetation rising above it. but it's also some of the most private of the campsites, as it butts right up against the back of the campground. Bathrooms with sinks and flush toilets and shower pavilions are spaced evenly throughout the campground, so every row has easy access. It's not warm water, but when you're salty and sweaty and uncomfortable, you won't mind the temperature. The shower buildings have spigots outside you can use to fill your water sources up. There's also main spigots next to the road for potable water. My parents are getting some now. Let's go say hi. It looks like they chose the spigot right next to site J13. Dad's connecting a water filter to our hose. It's that blue thing he's holding. Even though this is considered potable water, we like to filter it first. Oh yeah, the spigot doesn't have threads, so you actually have to hold your hose in place with your hand. Be careful not to give yourself or a neighbor an accidental shower. Alright, let's get back to the tour. Bye guys. Bordering the southern side of the campground, we could see a dune that increases in size the further east we go towards the campground entrance, where it actually begins to shelter some of the campsites from those ocean winds. Some cool plants grow here, like this dune prickly pear cactus and these beautiful blanket flowers. Running along the top of the dune is a sandy 4x4 beach access road, which goes west-southwest towards Frisco and eventually the edge of the island at the Hatteras Inlet, the farthest you can go without taking a ferry. Directly south of our campsite is a seashell road that leads to a parking lot on the southern beach. One of the benefits of camping in Row K is being so close to it. It's just a simple walk or drive to the beach. On the eastern end is a direct access to the southernmost point of the island, Cape Point. The hook-shaped area of shifting sands where two main Atlantic currents clash, building up miles-long sandbars which then slowly migrate onto the beach to eventually become dunes as the process repeats. Finally, to the north of the campground, after some marshy shrublands, is one of the largest stretches of maritime forest in the southeast U.S., Buxton Woods. Pine and oak-topped ancient sand dune ridges amongst marshy, reed-filled valleys protected deep inland by dunes near the shore. Also to the north is the Hatteras Lighthouse, which actually turns on every night. It's really cool. Alright, let's get back down to earth and start exploring. We're going to check out the southern beach next to our site, and then swing over to the Cape Point to take a closer look. We're going to the beach. We're going to the beach. Yeah.
Haven't seen the beach in 5 years.
It's about time. I went there last night, got a sneak preview.
You sure it's open? Maybe
Yeah,
it's all closed. Maybe there is no beach. Maybe
it's
there's no
open.
ocean.
This access road starts out as pavement and then becomes broken shells. It takes us about a half mile through some impressive dune and marshlands. I can hear the sounds of insects and frogs singing away off the sides of the trail. There's an intersection with one of the sand 4x4 roads.
We can get around these signs that way.
Tomorrow we'll have a proper vehicle and a permit
Jeep.
to explore those.
That's Jeep, yeah.
For now, we're going to continue to the
No.
beach.
Right?
No.
Up and down.
This is it.
As we walk along the Seashell Road, I notice an obvious change in the vegetation the closer we get to the ocean. Most plants hate the salty conditions of the ocean. Some are able to tolerate it, like the beach grasses, but too close and even they can't survive. So we end up with this beautiful fade of vegetation from lush to bare in just a few hundred feet. After the parking lot, we make our way through the remaining beach grass covered dunes towards the deep blue and sparkling waters of the Cape's southern shore. We're planning to walk north along the shore all the way to the point to get a good feel of what the terrain here is like, and also look for seashells. We finally made it to the cool blue waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Standing at the edge of the water for the first time in years is quite a feeling. Like you've returned home from a long day at work, and now it's finally time to relax. I could feel the stress I've built up over the years just being carried off and dissolved by the fresh, salty air. I miss this. Mom and I are collecting some seashells and shark teeth. And Dad's exploring the pristine, empty shoreline to the north.
Stop! You violated the law.
Uh-oh. Before Dad could make it any further up the beach, a park ranger in a beach cart sped over and intercepted him. The signs we had walked past earlier mentioned this section of beach is closed for the nesting birds. They didn't go all the way down to the water, so we thought you could walk along the waterline. We were wrong. The ranger speaking to my dad was really nice and explained how Hatteras is an important nesting beach for many bird species, some of which aren't in the best shape population-wise. Closing areas of the beach like this provides them with a pristine, empty habitat so they can remain undisturbed and raise their young. And it's working too. The numbers of migratory birds have been increasing ever since they've been doing this. The ranger said that he works with his partner who's hiding up in the dunes with a scope, watching the beach. When people get too close, his partner radios the location, and our ranger goes and makes contact. I'm gonna go out for a little swim. I haven't gone to the ocean in years, and I haven't swam in it in even longer, so this should be fun. The water is really nice. I like to hang out right where the largest breaking waves are. I love the action in this zone. I don't care how big the waves are either. The bigger and the more intense, the better. I will thrash around in it and ride the waves all day until I'm a shriveled, dehydrated prune. It's the best water park on earth, and it's free. All right, now that we've seen the South Beach, let's go see the infamous Cape Point. We just parked our van in the parking lot down there, and we're making our way on foot to the point. Let's go. we are. We finally made it to the very tip of Cape Point. Two major ocean currents, the Gulf Stream bringing warm water from the south, and the Labrador Current bringing cold water from the north, collide here. The configuration of this beach is always changing as the two currents push sand around, creating miles-long shifting sandbars. Over the years, this has created some really cool land configurations. Let's go back in time and see how it changes over the years with satellite imagery. Okay, hold it. It's February of 2017, and something very special and unique is about to happen. Zoom in. Just offshore, we can see a series of emerging islands and sandbars, echoing the shape of the point itself. By July, the series of islands built up further and coagulated into one large barrier island, which captivated the American people, even making the national news.
Enjoying the long holiday weekend in North Carolina's Outer Banks. Shelly Island is a destination that you won't find on a standard map. The giant barrier island suddenly formed in the Atlantic almost overnight.
Here it is, 1 mile long, a football field wide, and growing. Proof that whoever said no one was building any more beachfront property was wrong. Pilot Larry Ely.
It's definitely got bigger. It's definitely gotten higher. More built up.
9th generation North Carolinian, a county commissioner here and a lifelong resident of the Outer Banks. Couch has seen barrier islands pop up before, but not like this one he first noticed back in April.
This is the mother.
Shelly Island also provided some Class A surfing. Here's a clip of surfer Brett Barley tackling a perfect swell right here at Shelly Island, 2017. Shelly Island became one of the best-known Cape Point configurations of all time. However, all good things must come to an end. After some rough hurricanes that year, Shelly Island was pushed into the shore, merging it with the mainland. Since 2018, the southern shore has been consumed by the ocean, while the eastern shore has been gaining ground. Now, in 2023, there's barely any shoreline left on the southern side. There's only a thin strip of beach left between that big salt marsh and the ocean. A steep bank can be seen all along the southern shore here, as the sand is being stripped away from the land and sucked into the ocean. Over here, the vegetated sand dunes that protect the interior of the island are being eaten by the ocean. Large cliffs can be seen where the beach grasses are overhanging and falling into the ocean. I wonder how long it's going to continue weathering. Is this a major event? None of the satellite photos I could find looked this bad. I wonder what's going to happen to the ecosystem of this salt marsh as the land is eaten away further. Things are going to look a lot different, that's for sure. This strip of sand is all that separates the calm waters on the left from the raging ocean on the right. While the southern portion is shrinking, the eastern portion is actually growing. The new beach now has a lagoon and some nice-sized dunes. But currently, the point itself is pretty small. It doesn't go very far out. If we look offshore, we can see an island forming and the next generation of sand that will be pushed up onto the beach to create a new configuration for the point. I can't wait to see what it does over the next year. What an interesting place. I wonder what would happen if you tried to swim out there. It looks like trouble. What a difference from Shelly Island's lagoon-like calm conditions in 2017.
Another point where the two currents meet probably out there then. This is wild. I wonder what would happen if you tried to
Anyways,
ride these waves.
we're getting hungry, so we're gonna head back to the camper to eat.
This way.
We'll be back tomorrow with a 4x4 rental so we could drive on the beach and explore those off-roads. Mom's making pressed ham and cheese melts on the grill. Yum. As the sun sets, the urge to go out and explore just builds up. It feels like the local landscape itself just summoned me, ordering me to come out and observe its magic. Images and thoughts begin to race around my head of the wildlife crawling out of their day shelters, emerging out into the subtle, safe light of the moon. The process of nightfall is pretty cool around here. First, tons of lightning bugs emerge, making the landscape sparkle. See them? Also, the sounds of the frogs and insects begin to intensify. The air quickly fills with flying insects, an absolutely ungodly amount of insects. Most of them are biting me, and if I turn on a light, they'll swarm my face, getting in my mouth, nose, and eyes. So I try to walk without a flashlight. Look at this, I'm about 20 feet away, filming with my light on the ground, and even in the darkness, I struggle to film as these vicious mosquitoes bite every single piece of exposed skin. Hey, what's that flashing in the distance? There, yeah, that. Ah, the light in the Hatteras lighthouse is on. It spins, providing a flash of light that illuminates the landscape every few seconds. It's a subtle to the eye, but with a slow shutter speed on my camera, I can really show you how the rays of the lighthouse illuminate everything nearby. Check it out. Isn't that cool? Oh yeah, another thing, the stars. There is absolutely no light polluting the sky here. It's all wilderness. I've never seen so many stars, and so bright too. Right now, I'm standing in the parking lot near Cape Point, looking towards the pond and dunelands with my thermal camera. I don't see any warm-blooded creatures out there right now, but I'm sure it's just hidden amongst the varied topology. Oh, there's a deer. It's about 50 feet away in the brush between me and the pond. there's something else over there too. What is that? What the? Maybe the antlers of another deer? I have no idea. Something alive though. I am getting sucked dry by the mosquitoes here, so I'm heading back to the camp where it's a little better. I found these guys on the way back. Out here hard at work, eating all the mosquitoes and making a racket. I found this tiny lump hanging out near the edge of the shrubs back at camp. Just lifted it up like this with my finger. This frog wasn't jumpy like the others. I put the little guy back and crawled into my tent to go to bed. I'm looking forward to going off-road and driving on the beaches tomorrow. See you in the AM. Good night. I woke up to the sound of some pretty good wind ravaging the outside of my tent. I got out and started inspecting the stakes, making sure everything was tightly fastened to the ground. Everything seems good. However, the wind is pushing the clam quite a bit, making one anchor tight on one side and on the other side is loose. Everything seems to be holding. You can even feel the wind inside the A-liner pushing it around, but things are still stable. Susie, the campground host, stopped to chat for a little bit while she was out and about. We got to talking, and she let us know that she was worried about me and my tent because it was in an area of the campground that tends to hold more water and flood easier. She said the rows in the front, like A through C, are usually the driest, and we could change our campsite location for free if we wanted to. I mean, the ground is pretty wet, and it would be nice to be somewhere where the grass is actually cut. So we'll probably take her up on that offer a little later when we get back from the beach. Today we're going to pick up the four-wheel drive Jeep I reserved from Fishtails 4x4 in Frisco. The vehicle comes with the required ORV permit, and the tires are already semi-deflated to stay above the sand easier. I've been watching YouTube videos of people getting bogged down in the sand in places like Oregon Inlet right here in North Carolina, and Fraser Island in Australia. I've learned a fair amount about the tire pressure and working my way out of ruts, so it'll be interesting to see if I can keep myself from getting bogged down today when we visit the beach.
Turn right?
It's actually time to get in the Jeep now.
Turn left to stay on Lighthouse Road.
That's what I thought. I was right. The beach. Silly.
It's only a 15-minute drive to Fishtails. There it is. We're here. I've already talked to the nice gentleman inside and picked up the key. All I need to do now is drive it back to camp. This is my first time driving a Jeep, or any 4x4 for that matter. And even with the tires deflated for sand travel, it still handles pretty darn well on the pavement. This is going to be so awesome. And it comes with Sirius XM radio. Nice. I wasn't sure if I'd have enough room to park this at our current campsite, so I just bought another one across the street to store the Jeep at. Sexy ride. Let's get some glamour shots. no time to waste. Let's try out the Jeep and head over to the Cape. First, we take a moment to secure everything at camp to make sure it doesn't blow away, especially my tent. Fellow owners mentioned the tall profile of the wagon top tent not being the best in windy conditions, but look at it, it's doing great.
Hey, Ryan. Look up.
Oh, well, hello. We're going on a drive. A special drive.
We're off. I'm so excited. I feel like I just gained a superpower being able to drive off-road for the first time, and I'm stoked we no longer need to walk to and from the beach. Even better, we'll be able to reach some of the most isolated and wild parts of the island. Oh yeah, there's one of the brackish ponds I visited last night on the left there. Let's take a look at that in the daylight real quick. Wow, what a beautiful area. These ponds around the Cape have been around since at least the 80s, from what I could tell from satellite images. Currently, this one on the eastern coast is being protected from erosion, while the opposite is happening to the bigger one in the south by the point. It's actually being breached by the ocean. I wonder what's in the water. It's surprisingly clear and shallow, and it seems to be filled with all kinds of little fish and turtles. See if you could spot them below the surface. This super life-rich area apparently is considered one of the best bird-watching sites on the East Coast, especially the larger pond on the south. And it makes sense. Lots of food. All right, let's keep going to the point. We made it to beach ramp 43. This is where we'll access the beach with the Jeep and head down to the point. First, we'll come to a complete stop and activate four-wheel drive. Oh boy, we're off. Time to put everything I've learned about driving on the sand to the test.
Oh yeah, this is easy. Get bogged up.
You know the feeling when you're driving in snow and you hit like an area of deeper snow that catches your tires and pulls you around the road? Or you fall into somebody else's tracks and can feel your tires like trying to stay in them? That's kind of how it feels in the sand, except it's not slippery. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's sticky. It's also pretty bumpy. I keep looking around and laughing at everybody bouncing around like their bodies are made of jello, including myself. This is so much fun. I'm having a blast.
Oh, hello.
We're at the point now, driving by the lagoon. For being such a short point this year, the lagoon actually makes it a pretty interesting configuration. It's shallow and it heats up in the sun, so you have a warm, peaceful lagoon right next to the madness of the ocean. So you can jump back and forth to get different vibes. And here's the nub of Cape Point. It is looking rough today. Let's park here and hang out for a bit. Look at it out there. I've never seen the ocean move like this before. The waves are much bigger and choppier than they were yesterday with this wind. It feels like it's raining with all the sand and salty water in the air. This is wild. There's no fishermen, no swimmers, nobody on the beach at all, really. And I don't blame them. It's pretty harsh out here. But I find it just as amazing as the most beautiful of days. Beautiful chaos. One by one, we start making our way into and around the Jeep to hide from the elements. Being able to take a break from the wind and still get the beautiful view is awesome. We're going to go ahead and head back to camp and relax. Tomorrow we're going to explore the rest of the island. Oh crap, my tent! The wind pulled out the back stakes and now it's laying on the front door.
Oh my.
In complete shock and panic, I jumped out of the car before it even stopped moving. I can only imagine the damage my tent and everything in it suffered during this flip. The tent is super heavy and I'm having trouble riding it again. The wind keeps getting back underneath of it and pulling it back up again.
You need some help, Ryan? Alright, let me help you with this.
After my dad and I wrestled with it, we finally got it staked in again. I moved up to the front of the tent to go inside, and the door was still flat against the ground, pulled by everything piled up on top of it. My bed, my dresser, my clothes, cameras, laptop, everything was jumbled into a giant mess. I knocked everything over into the tent, and the door rose up so I could enter. Son of a gun, what a mess. I quickly got to work organizing everything and putting things back again. Thankfully, nothing was broken, including the tent. What a tank. I just couldn't be more thankful the whole thing didn't take to the sky, honestly. Ultimately, we decided to take Susie up on her offer to change campsites to one of the front rows. Dad and I walked around every row until the bottom of our shoes were no longer wet. And just as Susie said, the front rows were perfect. This spot in row C is protected somewhat from the winds because of the taller dune on the side here. The ground's a lot drier and firm, and the grass is even cut.
Okay, now bring it back. That's good. All right, now if the trailer's good, you want to straighten up the car.
This new spot really is nice. Since it's drier, we can actually enjoy this beautiful sunset with only a few mosquito bites instead of hundreds. For tonight's light show, some storms are firing off over the ocean. We sat outside and watched the free show as we talked about the day's events and what we were going to do tomorrow. Eventually, the mosquitoes chased us to bed, but I still watched the flashes of light through my window all night. And so ends our first couple days in Hatteras. But it's not over yet. On the next episode, we're really going to put the 4x4 Jeep to use and explore the rest of the island. There's some really amazing places like the southern tip of Hatteras, Buxton Woods, and more. I can't wait to show you. Good night, everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode.